another episode of Magnus Archives podcast review. Today we're going to review episode 27, and that one is called A Sturdy Lock. It's an interesting episode, to say the least, after we came from like a very lore heavy episode. They gave us something that was pretty small this time, so I'm actually really happy about that. But this episode is from Mr. Mackenzie, regarding his encounters with some paranormal, like, nocturnal intrusions is how he phrases it, that happens in his house. So he gives us a little backstory, then he tells us what happens. I'll get into it for you guys. So then he goes in to tell us that it's really weird to live alone, which I feel like I can really relate to, because I understand that, because I also think it's really weird to live alone, and how living with others is just easier because you can account one noise to being to someone else, which I always think is the best, because like living with roommates, it's just simpler, it's easier to like live with roommates. But he basically says that, like, you know, we can account certain noises to certain people, like if someone's walking up and down the stairs, something falls and breaks, it's your roommate, it's whatever. But he used to live with his wife and his kid Marcus. His wife did die, which was really unfortunate, and his son Marcus moved out because he has a wife now, which is amazing. But now he's kind of getting used to hearing in the house again, because he doesn't want to go to like one of those senior homes, because he thinks like he just doesn't want to be in that. He wants to be in his own space, which I understand. So then he tells us of this one night where he kind of hears like noises while he's trying to sleep, and he's like, this is weird, but he can account every single minor noise because he knows the house so well to where people are. So he heard a noise at the very top of his stairwell, and he accounted that someone was like right by his room, and he heard them slowly walking to his room, which he was like, what the fuck? He felt his hands getting like, he felt like it was sweaty, and he was like, oh, I don't like this. He heard them put their hand on the doorknob and like slowly turn it. He ran over to the door, he like grabbed the doorknob, kept it steady with both of his hands, and was like, I don't like this. If it's a burglar, like, take whatever you want, just don't take my life, kind of thing, which understandable for an older guy. So then he's holding it still, then suddenly he hears nothing. But the whole night he's holding the fucking doorknob still, which is really sad. So then he's like, you know what, I'm gonna call the police, since he finally saw the sunlight coming in from his window. So then as he goes to the corner to call the police, he looks on his hands and there's blood on his hands, and he's like, well, I'm not scratched or anything, there's no like dead body in here. So he runs over, he washes his hands super thoroughly, then he calls the police. Police come over, they're like, how can we help? And he's like, I think a burglar was here. So then he like looks around and he's like, well, I don't really see anything about a burglar or anything. And so they're being super nice to him because he's an older guy. And then they leave. And the next night, something similar happens again, where he hears the noises, except this time he found the key to his bedroom door so he can lock it. So he locks his door, he hears a guy come again, and they turn it, then they realize, oh shit, it's locked. So then they start violently like shaking and banging the door, trying to get this thing open. And he's sitting there like, what the fuck? It seems like he's gonna break the door down. So he did something smart. He called the police from his bed. So then the police came, and then as soon as they came and rung the doorbell, literally everything stopped. Like, there was no more noises. He was like, what the fuck is going on? And so after that, he was like, okay, this is really weird. Goes to the police are like less happy about talking to him now. They're like, nothing's happening, like, you know, it's probably hard for you to live alone here, like alluding to the fact that he needs to stay in a home. And then he's like, what the fuck, I'm gonna get proof. Like, I'm gonna get proof that this shit is happening. So he brings Mark over some nights to stay with him. Whenever Mark's over, nothing happens. He's like, what the fuck? And that's the only nights that he can actually get sleep. The other nights, there's this guy who's like trying to get in this fucking door. So then he tried to set up cameras, but they didn't really show anything besides like this one frame where it showed like a shadow making a face that was like looming over him or something. But it was so creepy that he ended up deleting it. So now he has no evidence again. So then he kind of wraps up his statement by saying, like, he doesn't want to be put in a home, he really likes his house, he doesn't want to, like, move from his house, and he just wants the doorknob shaking to stop. He just wants to stay in his house, that way he doesn't have to deal with any of this. And then, important notes time. So Jonathan basically says, like, he wants to believe him, like, it's a scared old man, you want to believe him, you don't want to, like, not believe him, you know? And he did mention that 2 months after making the statement, the guy passed away and had a stroke, which was really sad. and there was no connection between like his statement and the death, so he couldn't make that connection either. But Sarah Carpenter, who did work at the archives, was sent over to go look. She said that nothing really happened while she was there, so no weird accounts or anything like that either. Something super interesting is that Martin reached out to Marcus, and Marcus said, oh, I have nothing to say because I already said everything in my statement, which I'm like, Marcus made a fucking statement? What? Okay. And then another really interesting thing to note before we wrap up this episode is that Sarah Carpenter, who was working in 2003, took pictures of the layout of the house, but the bedroom door looked like it had no keyhole or lock. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really hope you guys liked it. If you did, I'll see you guys next Friday. If you didn't, please let me know what I could do better. But I'll see you guys next Friday, which will be February. So see you guys in Feb.